This will be a quick run through of a preview of setting up SQL Server Migration Assistant to migrate Northwind tables. I'm using the old version of Northwind because the new version isn't in the public yet. Let's start with default settings. There are some global defaults, which I won't show you here. We want to look at default project settings because this is what's most important in getting a project started. We select default project settings. We have to pick the target. And this will depend on where you're going to migrate your tables, which version of SQL Server. You notice we have Azure as well as all current versions. The one I'm going to use for this is 2017. This is one of the key issues here. We want to let SQL Server Migration Assistant decide whether to add timestamp columns to our SQL Server tables during the migration process. Some tables need them, some tables do not. And it's simpler to go ahead and trust SQL Server Migration Assistant to do it. You can always adjust that later if you want. The type mapping is the second important step here. The ones that I want to call out are date to date time. Date time 2 is the extended date time, which has a much greater precision than the standard date time, and depending on your access version and which ODBC driver you use, you might be safer using the original date time rather than the newer date time 2s. But that's entirely up to you, and I'm just going to leave it at the current default. I would change decimal to something else, double to something else. Float is notoriously iffy. The other one to pay attention to at this point really is the text field. It's going to default to nvarchar, which is the Unicode version. You may or may not need Unicode depending on who your users are, and I won't change that for this because it doesn't impact what we're trying to do today. Notice that whatever the length of the text is in the access table, it's going to duplicate that same text length. 50 chars will go to 50 chars and so on. Make sure you set those, make sure you understand all of these before you proceed past here. First step is to create a new project. I will give it a name. I'll also do this, UA demo. I'm going to put it under this folder where my user group presentations are going to go, so I can find it again. Notice that it defaults to the version that I say I'm going to use, and I can, for an individual project, change that. That's true for all the default settings. I won't repeat that. You can set the global defaults, but then you can override them on a per project basis. So we set up the migration project. Now we have to add a database. Select add a database. You can see that I have it set up to default here. I'm going to go back and pick a different one, this original version of the template. Expand it. It'll offer me the chance to migrate all of the objects, all the data objects. Okay, it's done. It offers me the chance to migrate both queries and tables. And as we discussed in the UA forums, we probably do not want to migrate our queries. And I will skip those for now. We can select all of the tables or some of the tables. This one you might not want to migrate. It looks like it has information pertaining to the setup configuration for the Northwind project. And strings, well, those are used in messages, so I'll leave those. But notice that the old version had spaces in table names, and there are some other problems, which I won't go into here, but that's why we replaced it. Next, we have to connect to a SQL Server instance. I'm going to pick my default, which is the instance installed on my laptop here. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to UA demo. I'm going to use Windows authentication. You could change that to SQL Server depending on your particular configuration and where you're working. We're going to connect to that server. It tells me that database does not exist. Do you want to create it? I say yes, because I want it to create that database. And we're getting progress messages down here, which I won't go into in this short video. I'll go into that in more detail in the full presentation. Pause while it finishes this. Okay, we're back. We have a new database set up. I'm going to scroll down through here. Notice that it indicates all of the databases, both the system databases, master, model, and MSDB, and all of my user databases. I want to use this one, which is UA demo. So this box shows the black square indicating that one or more objects, but not all, have been selected. This indicates that the UA demo is the one that was selected. So now I'm going to go into schema. I'm going to unchecked assemblies, check into schemas. And I'm only interested in DBO. That's where I'm going to put this database. So the tables for this database are going to go under DBO, under the DBO schema. So now we're practically ready to do our first migration. I'm going to select here and here. That lights up my options up here. I'm just going to go ahead and fire this off for this short preview. We'll do convert, load, and migrate. Now I'm going to get some errors, and I can predict which ones they will be. We will resolve those in the full presentation next month. Away we go. It's converting the objects from Access tables to SQL Server tables in preparation for moving them to the database. And you can see the progress. And we're getting warnings down here. And again, I won't go through that in this preview presentation. Now it's loading them from the local environment into SQL Server. So if you can see here, it now shows that there are 20 of 20 tables available in SQL Server. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to let it finish. It created them. Now it's loading the objects. Pause while it does that. And now we're ready to migrate the data. This is the step where we're probably going to get one or more errors. Oh, actually, we did not get any errors on this old version. That's good. It says 20 tables successfully migrated. If I expand, I'm under UA demo, DBO, and I expand the tables node, I can see all 20 of my tables. If I select any of them, oops, that's not the one I wanted customers. We can see the fields. As I said before, the default is going to be nvarchar, and it's going to take the same field size that it found in Access. The address is a varchar max, which is a memo field. Yes, it's a memo field in Access. The one that I was expecting to have a problem is attachments. Notice that it converted attachments to a varchar 8000. That's a multi-value field in Access with attachments. I think it has images of some sort in Access. On the SQL Server side, that gets converted, and we can look at the data here. Oh, that's nothing in those fields, those attachment field. And we look at the same data on the Access side. The attachment field is empty. So that's all there is to it. Leave comments or ping me at Utter Access if you have questions.